After logging into Wercker, select the application Simple Workflow Example to create a workflow for and click the Workflows tab. In the Editor section, you can create and edit workflows. A workflow is a sequence of pipelines that run in a defined order. There's always a single first pipeline, the build pipeline, which can be followed by other pipelines running in series or in parallel. The Pipelines section allows you to define and edit workflow pipelines. When you define a pipeline, you specify the hook type, the actual pipeline definition per your application's worker.yaml file, and any environment variables. Let's now look at the pipelines that are defined in our application's worker.yaml file. There are 5 pipelines in addition to the build pipeline: unit test, build image test, deploy image, verify deployment, and report success. The deploy image pipeline uses 2 environment variables that must be defined. These are username, which is your Docker Hub username, and password, which is your Docker Hub password. The verify deployment pipeline also uses the username environment variable. You can associate environment variables with pipelines when you create pipelines. We'll now create the unit test pipeline. Click Add New Pipeline. Enter a name for the pipeline. This will appear in the pipelines list and is used to represent this pipeline in the workflow diagram. This name doesn't need to match the name of the corresponding pipeline that's defined in your worker.yaml file. Next, enter the name of the pipeline as defined in your worker.yaml file. Select Default as the hook type, which configures this pipeline to be triggered by another pipeline in the workflow. Click Create. The Workflows tab now includes the Unit Test 1 pipeline. Repeat this process to create the remaining pipelines. The Pipeline section now lists all the pipelines. Let's create the environment variables required by the Deploy Image pipeline. Select Deploy Image from the list of pipelines. Enter the name of the variable and its value. We recommend protecting this variable, which hides its value. To do this, select Protected. Click Add to complete creating the variable. We'll follow the same steps to create the password environment variable by entering the variable name, value, selecting Protected, and clicking Add. The environment variables have now been created. Now we'll create the workflow. Click the Workflows tab. The plus sign indicates the nodes in a workflow. Each pipeline is triggered at the node you select. The node also marks the end of the previous pipeline. Click the plus sign to add a pipeline. We can skip the branch details and select the pipeline to execute after the current pipeline. The Execute Pipeline drop-down lists all the pipelines we've created. Let's select Unit Test 1 from the drop-down to execute after the build pipeline is complete. Click Add. The workflow now includes the Unit Test 1 pipeline. You can design your workflow to execute the pipelines in a sequence, with each pipeline triggering the next, or fork them to execute them in parallel. For this example, we repeated the steps to add the other pipelines we created to our workflow. Here's the complete workflow with pipelines set to trigger both in sequence and in parallel. We can now test the pipelines. Click the Runs tab and then click the Build pipeline. Click Execute this pipeline again from the Actions menu. Click Execute Pipeline. We can view the progress of the pipelines being executed. The clock icon indicates that the pipeline is scheduled and waiting for the previous pipeline to complete. And after a short wait, we see that all the pipelines have run successfully. You can take a closer look at the steps performed by a pipeline by selecting the pipeline from the workflow and clicking a step to view its output. Learn more at cloud.oracle.com/containers/pipelines. Thanks for watching.